Hi and welcome to session 8 of the monthly quilt club. It's great to be back with you. I've lost track of how many we've done online and how many we've done in person, but hopefully we can get back together in person soon. You should have received the instructions by now, and there's a picture of this particular block which is called Bargello, and it's working using colour, grading from dark to light or light to dark to create a pattern. We're going to be using strip piecing in this, but this particular form of strip piecing, while very easy, does have a wee sting in the tail that means that you have to pay particular attention once you come to the second stage, but we'll go over that once we get there. So the first thing you should have done is cut out your pieces. You need to choose 6 different colours, grading from light to dark or dark to light, whichever way you want to look at it. And you can choose from 2 different colour families or just use one. It doesn't really matter if you have enough. I didn't have enough in one particular colour family, so I've used 2, but I'm still kind of grading from light to dark. You can cut this either as single pieces, so they would be 1.5 inches by 23 inches long. If you don't have pieces in all your colours that can do 23 inches, then you need to do the shorter length, which is what I've done. I've cut them at 1.5 inches by 13 inches. So instead of 2 sets of strips of 6 colours, I've done 4 sets of strips of 6 colours. So this is where I am just at the moment with the colours. So as you can see, I've already stitched up 1/2, and this is the second half. So I've got 2 sets here. I've already stitched together 2 sets, so this is my second lot. So we're grading right from light to dark, right the way through. The other thing that you need to do before you get started is to take a small piece of each colour, and hopefully you can see that. And all you need to do with this is just a small square or circle or offcut, it doesn't really matter. It's only so as it gives you a pattern to follow for your colour placing. And just glue them onto a sheet of paper and put a number beside them running from 1 to 6. And that's all we need to do just at the moment before we move on to the next stage. So here we are. I've brought the fabric across to the machine and we're going to go on and strip piece these. As you can see, I've laid them out in the order that I'm going to be sewing them together, and that should make life a little bit easier. So let's just get on with stitching this, and with no further ado. So you're just going to put 2 pieces together, make sure you match them up at the end. Put your machine on a fairly narrow, a fairly small stitch, so that when you come to unpick the bits that we need to unpick, don't worry about that, we'll get to that in a minute. But when we come to do that, it means that it's less likely to unravel if you've got a nice small stitch in it. So let's just go ahead and stitch these together. So when you're doing this, make sure that you get them in the right order. You don't want to be stitching the wrong order together. So I'm just going to put that back down there so as I can see, and then lift that one to there. So when I'm putting these seams together, you don't really need any pins unless you don't feel confident enough to stitch them without pins. But really you just need to line them up because your pieces should be nice and straight and flat. And you're going to use a scant 1/4 inch seam to put these seams together. And basically a scant 1/4 inch seam is really a 1/4 inch seam, but making sure that you don't go over that and maybe just fractionally inside that. So we're just going to complete this last strip here. It's always much easier if you have a 1/4 inch foot because it has this little metal guard just here that stops you from going over the 1/4 inch. So you want to be just inside that. So now you should have your 2 pieces that you've created. If you're using the 23 inch long ones, you'll have one long piece like this. But as I said, I'm using the 2 13 inch ones, so I've got 2 pieces. And the final seam that I've got to do at the moment is to put these 2 together, so your dark to your light, so that you've got the contrast. So as you can see, I've joined the 2 sets of strips that I had. These are the 13 inch strips, and they're both running from dark to light in the same order, and I've joined them along this central seam here. So the next thing we need to do is to press them, and we're going to start by pressing from the wrong side, And what you want to do is to press the seams in alternate directions. So one going one way and one going the other. And this just makes it easier when you come to join the pieces. So there we go, there's one. And this one now needs to go that way. So a little bit tricky doing this in 2 different directions, but don't worry about it because you can come back and go over it from the other side. Just press them lightly from the back and then go back over them from the front again. Just to get them to lie in the right direction at this stage. So as you can see, we're going alternate directions with each seam. And it does cause a little bit of difficulty, but I just want to make sure we get that right. I'm going to flip it over and make sure that your seams are lying the right ways. Let me just check. And then the most important thing at this next stage of the pressing is to make sure that everything is properly pressed out, that you don't end up with a little extra fold here that will take up some of the fabric. I don't know if you can see that on any of the seams, but you don't want to stretch them, but you need to just pull them out so that they're sitting the right way and that you've not got any little extra fabric folds. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just going to just give them a wee bit of a tug as I press from that side. Not too much because I don't want to stretch the fabric, but just to make sure that the seams are properly open. So the final stage for this part is that you have these pieces stitched together like this, the 2 pieces, so you've got a nice long piece here, and then we're going to turn it around and make a tube out of it. So you're going to take from this side right across to here, and then you're going to stitch these 2 seams together, or this one seam together rather. So this is the final seam that we've stitched here, making a tube, as you can see. And now this final seam just needs to be pressed in accordance with the other ones. So that one's going that way, that one's going that way, so I'm just going to press it down there and just gently press it on the wrong side and then flip it out to the right side and just give it a final wee press to make it stay in place. Looks fine. Okay, I'm going to flip it back to the other side now for the next stage. So for the next part of this block, you're going to need a few pieces of essential equipment. First of all, you're going to need the tubes that we've created. You're going to need the colour chart that we made earlier. This is really essential. You don't want to be without this one. And also you should have received in your package a cutting chart like this, which would be very useful if you can print it off or make one up yourself if you've not got a printer. But it's very, very useful, and it'd be easy to get confused without this. The other thing you're going to need is your cutting ruler, a rotary cutter, and this essential piece of equipment is your little unpicker. You're going to need something to unpick with. So let's get on and see how we cut this. First of all, you lay out your tube on your cutting board like so, and straighten off one of the ends like we normally do. I've already straightened this end off and I've cut some pieces already, and I'll let you see them in a minute. And turn it back so you've got your nice straight edge here, and then you refer to your cutting chart. And now I'm on this piece here, so this means that I'm going to cut a 1-inch piece, and we'll come back to the other numbers in a second. So this is a 1-inch strip that I'm going to cut here. If I can find my rotary cutter. So I'm just going to line this up nicely so that I get a nice 1-inch piece here. So this is your 1 inch piece, and then we're going to refer again to the chart. This is the piece we've cut here, the 1 inch, and it needs to be separated between number 6 and 5, and that's number 6 and 5 on the colour chart. So for me, that's these two darker colours. So I need to separate it along this seam here. So let me just show you that. So it's 6 and 5 are these two colours at the bottom here. So it's this seam that I'm going to undo. I lost my picker. There we go. So I'm just going to separate out that seam there carefully. There we go. And the next important thing that we need to refer to on this chart is that this second number here is the bottom fabric. So number 5 is going to go at the bottom of my piece. And which one's number 5 is this dotty one here. So let me show you what I've laid out so far over here. So these are all the colours laid out. There we go. So I'm now going to put this piece that I've just cut into the mix here with colour number 5 at the bottom. And you'll see how the colours are beginning to rise and fall as we go along. And basically that's all you need to do. You just follow the cutting chart and the colour chart all the way through till you get all the pieces cut. So let me just show you that this finished piece, well, it's not finished, all the strips are cut, and you can see the pattern beginning to emerge. It'll look much better once it's stitched, but it actually looks really, really wide. But don't forget, there's lots of seams to go in there. One thing I would say to you is when you start to do this section of the block, it would probably be beneficial if you had a chunk of time where you won't be interrupted. Because it's actually, if these strips get mixed up, it'll be a nightmare to put them back in the right order again. So it would be useful if you could take the time. It's probably taken me half an hour or something like that to cut the strips and to stitch them together, which I'm going to do now. It won't take me that long. So yeah, if you had an hour of uninterrupted time, that might be really useful. So when you come to joining up the pieces, you want to just make sure that you nest these seams in together. And if you've done a good job of your seam allowances when you were stitching the strips together and you've pressed them in the right order, then that should be okay. That should work really well. Just be careful. There is a wee bit of room for wiggling them about, but be careful that you don't pull too hard on these seam edges and end up starting to unravel the seam.